primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
In today's episode 228 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/@241 Studios is the best place to consume all the content. If you didn't know, listeners, let's be honest, you probably did not. We are sponsored by Kapow Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas, though they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Daniel is 228.
Mm-hmm.
And as we get closer and closer to our road to 241, our ultimate destiny, our manifest destiny, as they'd say.
The listeners won't know. I just got shivers. The visual, listeners, they obviously saw my body quiver with excitement. So I just wanted the listeners to know that just happened.
They did. And we have some cool things coming up that we're not discussing today, but I'm getting more excited about the future of the podcast.
Indeed.
And where it's going, for sure. So it's 228, and from our thumbnail, if you're on YouTube, you know this. We are talking about James Gunn's Creature Commandos. And we may sneak in some other things about some other superhero fare happening in the stratosphere. So this, I think, it's 7 episodes, Daniel, this Creature Commandos, if I'm correct.
Yep.
Kind of odd. It's not the normal Disney Plus 6. It's not the classical 8 on Netflix or whatever it is. So we have 7 of these relatively short 22-minute, 21-minute animated episodes of the first DCU, universe here that James Gunn has created.
The James Gunn CU.
Yeah, the James Gunn CU. And so, we're finally going to talk about the series overview of this, and I think this will also kind of devolve into more of a larger DCU discussion. But my general thoughts real quick was I had a really good time with it. To me, this was just Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad 1.5, right? So This was just getting familiar with some past characters, some maybe swapped color palettes of other characters, and then kind of setting up a little bit of the world that we're going to see later on this July with Superman. It wasn't nothing that was had huge, large, in my opinion, ramifications for the larger universe. Right. But I did feel like, and at least the way this was structured, we were getting every character's backstory per episode, kind of like the way Lost would do it, right? There would be a framework for an episode, then we'd jump back and we'd be seeing that person's origin story or whatever they're going through that ties into the present. And I really enjoyed that, and I think that it really made you kind of, care and sympathize with some of these characters. And ultimately, I'm really excited about seeing all of them in live action, particularly G.I. Robot and Dr. Phosphorus.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree. I didn't know what to expect from the show other than it's James Gunn's style, and that definitely did not let down. The weird ass needle drops of songs that no one else has heard of till it was on the show. I'm almost certain of. Listeners, write in if you ever heard of any of these songs before, because it's just I love it, but I believe you made that song up just now for the show. And then the gore, the violence, the language, the obscenity, it was great. I mean, I am gonna mostly be a day one customer for that kind of adult animation anyway, whether it's humoristically like Rick and Morty, or serious like this, or even some animes, and so I'm like a target audience for that. But you're right. I think the story kind of pushed it a level above, and it really felt like we got to know each one of the characters really well, except maybe Flag. But that's just I know he's kind of he's an odd character in this group. He doesn't even end up being the leader at the end of the Creature Commandos. I guess he's not really in the group anymore. I'm not exactly sure. But all these other side interesting characters, we got great, empathetic storylines. Yeah, Dr. Phosphorus's was great. That was the episode 6, I think. Really dark as fuck. I mean, the stuff they were doing with making him touch the bodies of his dead family to leave it was brutal. It didn't pull punches, you know what I mean? And it didn't try to alleviate that with jokes or anything. It was just whew. Now, huge shout out to the mob boss, who, if you recognized his voice, well, you've never played the games. Never mind. He plays Dutch in Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2. Who's like the gang leader of that gang, of the gang that you're a part of or were a part of. So it was I love his voice. He has just such a very kind of particular low voice, and it's just like it was wonderful hearing him in other things. I really haven't ever heard him in anything else. It was like this wonderful surprise. But anyway, yeah, I really like the show. I will say, like, the ending was definitely sad in a way that like matched the show. It's one thing that, like, I wouldn't call the final episode the emotional high point of the series, maybe. You know what I mean? I feel like the other episodes before it had higher peaks, even just some of the individual ones. And so there was maybe a slight sense of it didn't land as hard as I maybe have wanted it to for the finale. But it was it was a fun story. It had emotional points. I was invested in it. It had a great twist. And then it set him up, like that final shot of the bride with her creature commandos is like, fuck yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for season 2 right now. You know what I mean? I don't want it to stop. Let's go. So it's not to say it was a bad finale. It's just like, typically you kind of expect the emotional climax to be at the end of shows like this. And maybe it wasn't on this one, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, a couple of things there. One, I have played Red Dead 1, and I've played about an hour or two of Red Dead 2.
Okay, so you played Red Dead 1, so you're chasing Dutch the whole time. He's the final bot, the guy that, has gone crazy by the end of the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so, I'll agree with you in terms of the finale here. I kind of wish we had an episode 8 where it was no flashbacks and you were getting a lot of these character arcs paying off in the finale. Like, they're doing the finale thing, and then we're getting those finishes while the action is happening. And so I kind of wish that was the framework. And so because we spent a lot of time with, I can't think of her name, but the fish girl, we spent a lot of time with her in the last episode. Yeah, Nina. And so I do wish that we would have had a bigger perhaps finale for that. And then also, it is kind of interesting how Frank starts as kind of the leader and falls off. It's very much like the Suicide Squad,
right?
Where his son, Rick Flag, Jr. is kind of the leader of the group, kind of, but then it becomes kind of Bloodsport and becomes kind of the Is it Bloodsport? It's Bloodsport. What? It's Bloodsport.
Idris Elba.
Bloodsport. Yeah.
Okay.
Deadshot was Will Smith's character in the first Suicide Squad.
I can't, just as an aside, I can't wait until they do Slade right, because Slade is honestly, that's kind of who I could hope, even like the Brave and the Bold, I could see a version where it's Slade taking down the Bat family. You know what I mean? As kind of just a nice entry level villain that's kind of a Batman mirror, but also has some interesting things. Anyway, sorry.
I can't think of his name, but it's the director of The Raid and Raid 2 Redemption, which are basically the best action movies ever made, probably.
Wow.
And it was him. There was a rumor that he was going to do like a short 90-minute Slade movie. And which is Slade Wilson.
I remember that. That wasn't that long ago, right? That rumor.
No, and but I mean, that's like, why wouldn't you give this man $80 million to do a tight, short action film that's just like making this guy just whip ass,
and like, I guess he'll be like an anti-hero, but I don't like Slade anti-hero. I like
you
Slade.
Don't need to be you don't have to be an anti. You don't have to be an anti-hero. No, I mean, you could just be a guy just whipping ass. I mean, like,
but we're gonna be rooting for him. So in a way, he will. I mean, like, I guess, like,
no. I mean, this is much as
I mean, the protagonist, right?
I did root for Walter White,
and you rooted for Arthur Fleck, even though he's the freaking Joker. You're still like in his perspective, like wanting to see what happens and how he succeeds. You're like, he's the protagonist.
Sure.
I mean, like,
that one's harder. That one's harder to root for.
But like, it would be harder to compare that to Deadshot. I mean, like a Deadshot movie, I feel like, because he is kind of just a total badass, and unless you dig into some of the later stories with him that kind of make him like a sexual predator, like, he'll just be a badass in a movie killing other bad guys. So how will he not be an anti-hero? kind of, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think that there's absolutely a path where you can make him where you're not doing like a Snake Eyes or a Kraven the Hunter or Madam Web,
Sure.
where
Oh,
you're taking a perspective. He's not good, he's a mercenary, I think at the end of the day. And yeah, of course there is
Yes.
some rough stuff, and I guess I don't really know too much about the sexual predator part of
What's
his
the
history,
stuff in like
honestly.
it's the stuff in the Judas Contract. It's mainly in the movie, but I think they did some of that in the
Okay, I don't know much about the Judas Contract stuff, particularly the
it's
movie.
the one with
Um,
Quake and him.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I know what you're talking about,
yeah,
but I don't. Anyway, but I know there's stuff like his daughter, and there's all these other kind of things
yeah.
they can really dive into. Point is, why that's the kind of stuff they need to greenlit, and we are getting that kind of stuff. It seems like with Clayface, with Mike Flanagan, and like
Yeah.
I don't expect him to be a good guy in that, and I don't think
No.
he'll be an anti-hero because he's the protagonist in that
No, it'll
movie.
be a horror movie though. It'll be a horror movie. In
Sure.
horror movies, you don't root for the like. That's just the genre. I mean, like you don't really like horror movies. You're just allowed to have movies about horrible things that happen to horrible people, and you're never rooting for them. I feel like versus an action movie.
I mean, here we go. Here we go, people. I think there's tons of horror movies where the protagonist is someone who is innocent. I mean, there's the trope of like teenagers doing stupid teenager shit, and then they get like Michael Myers or
Right.
Jason Voorhees after them. But there's plenty of movies where the hero's good in a horror film, and they have to stop the horror villain or whatever. I
Right.
don't know. I don't know what Clayface is. My expectation is that it's a movie from his perspective, and it's kind of like a tragedy. That's my guess.
Yeah, I mean, it just Mike Flanagan makes me think horror, obviously, because just Mike
Well, yeah,
Flanagan.
I know
But-
horror tragedy.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like I'm trying to think of other films like this. I know what they exist out there, but yeah, it's going to be like a character study, and he's going to like this is going to happen to him. It's going to drive him insane. All that, just kind of like it'll be almost more about the mental torture of what it would be like to become this versus like even just the body horror of it. But there'll be plenty of body horror.
Like The
I'm
Fly
sure.
and and
It's going to be like
Reanimator
The Thing, but from the Thing's perspective. I mean, it totally.
Well, I mean, even look at like I mentioned this to you in private, but Candyman, the recent remake, or it's kind of a sequel, really, but it's from Abdul Mateen II's perspective. He's he's the protagonist, but it's kind of like his down descent into becoming Candyman.
Sure.
And
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
And so I
that's
think-
what I'm thinking for sure.
Yeah, and so anyway, I think a Slade movie from the director of The Raid would be great, really in any form, because those are perfect action films. But yeah, so we have Frank Grillo as Rick Flag Sr. here, and yeah, he does kind of fall off, but we do know that we're going to get him in a prominent role in Superman, and then a basically probably second billing. He'll probably be the antagonist of the series of Peacemaker season 2.
You think he'll be the
probably
antagonist?
I think so. I think he'll be the one after Peacemaker, like trying to get a vengeance for his son.
Okay.
Which also I
Interesting.
think is great because like
I wonder
obviously Peacemaker.
there'll have to be some sort of other threat that they team up for at the end. I'm assuming, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Frank will die in Peacemaker season 2.
No.
Um,
You've got Frank Grillo. He likes the role. You want to cash in on that, and you barely.
it'll be hard to make them team up. I think, but I think James can do it. I mean,
yeah,
he killed
I
his
think
son.
so.
Killed his son.
Someone's being a dick.
He was. Yeah,
I'm
trying to
kidding.
stop-
That's
trying to
that's exactly what Peacemaker's going to say when he says,
Yeah.
"You killed my son." Well, he was being a dick.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% correct. Yeah, no, Rick Flag Jr. was being like the ultimate hero, and he gets
That's right.
killed for
That's
it.
right. I forgot. It's like him being a like total.
Well,
I don't
he's
care how
saving
many
the
men,
girl.
women, and children. Like I value
Yeah.
freedom, and I don't care how many men, women, and children I have to care to get it. Like
He's literally saving. I think it's Ratcatcher 2's life, and she's in like she has the drive or whatever, and he's like he saves her life, and because of that, he dies for it. He dies for her.
Yeah.
And so yeah, which is a great moment in that movie too, because you see that pain in Peacemaker's eyes of like, oh, I just killed Rick
good
Flag.
guy, the good guy.
I just killed a good guy.
And no, and it's like, that'll be well. And he's honestly, he's developed like he's gone through a lot. Like in season 1, he's very much. I feel like a kind of a different
a lot.
person in season so it'll be interesting to see that version of him deal with that.
Well, I'll say this too about Creature Commandos is that even though James Gunn has a really weird way of going about the continuity and the canon of like what happened beforehand and what's happening now.
Sure.
It feels like he wants his cake and wants to eat it too. But watching Creature Commandos, like when it was over, I was like, man, I really want to go back and watch the Suicide Squad
I know.
and then Peacemaker
I
season
know.
1. Like it really kind of started scratching that
Absolutely.
itch, you know? I was going to ask you, since these were kind of 7 episodes, they were shorter.
Hmm.
One thing that we've really been talking about the last 3 or 4 years on the channel is some of these things are better or worse because you get to binge them or not binge them. And I bring that up because I watched all of the Falcon Winter Soldier
Yeah.
yesterday, and I binged it. And I remember some of the things that were in my brain of like, oh, I remember not liking that, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember I watched last night. I was like, man, this is actually like, it's so much better watching it, like literally binging it for 4.5 hours
Mm-hmm.
versus getting a week to week and then, us doing
Yeah.
spoiler casts and talking about it and then like being let down or whatever, or our theories aren't panning out or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think it also helps because we have Brave New World coming up soon and Thunderbolts, which really tie directly to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about Creature Commandos, and I was like, man, is Creature Commandos better than season 2 of Invincible? Because Invincible was longer format per episode versus like, it's like every episode for Invincible is 3 times as long as a Creature Commando episode. But we had this 2 month break,
Yeah.
and so I was like, which one's better? Is Invincible a better show? But it was hurt by, I just want to kind of propose that to you because they're similar and different in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard comparison. I do think Creature Commandos season 1 is much tighter and refined than season 2 of Invincible. I think there was parts of season 2 of Invincible that have just kind of slipped by me. I just feel like I don't even remember some of the plot of it versus season 1. And maybe that is the gap. Maybe that is some of the storytelling just wasn't quite as focused or just didn't have it. Like season 1 had such a clear path. Episode 1, Nolan kills them. Episode 10, Invincible finds out, right? Like, it's such a clear, tight narrative arc. And it's just a ticking clock dating down to the episode 10. And it's coming and and then it finally comes. And season 2 did not have that sort of clean bookmarks to it, right? Like I felt like the end of season 2 just felt like, well, we just need season 3 now. It doesn't feel like this is a stopping point in the story. This just feels like we have to because we have to go to a new season. And so like in that way, like Creature Commandos is like there's not a wasted second in any of these episodes. Every scene is there for a reason and is impactful and has you glued. And there's not a second that they just like we're having to make up time to fill minutes or something. You know what I mean? And so there is just a sense of like Creature Commandos is exactly what it wanted to be, and it lands really well because of that. Versus season 2 of Invincible, we know all the problems that were going on behind the scenes, and we know of just the obvious gap. So like, I just think they were just like an execution level. Like, yeah, Creature Commando season 1 is at an execution level better than season 2 of Invincible. I do just love Invincible and the world and the concept. And so like, it's hard for me to say like, I'd rather have Creature Commandos than Invincible season 2 or something like that. Like, but like I said, I think it does come down to execution. And, when you talk about, week to week versus binging, to me, it's becoming clear that like you have to be really confident that your show's really good to go week to week. Because I feel like a lot of these shows in the streaming era, you know what I mean? It does feel like you need to watch it all at once to kind of digest it well, to remember everything.
And appreciate it more.
Yeah, and appreciate the character arcs, appreciate the moments, like they're going to mean more. And so, it's like the Penguin week to week, and it did great. No one thought any less of the Penguin because you couldn't binge it or whatever. If your show is an A++ tier show, it makes sense to put it out week to week for a marketing perspective, for a money perspective. Just keeping the conversation going for 8 weeks instead of 2 or 3. But you do have to wonder. It's like, yes, Falcon and the Winter Soldier did keep the conversation going for however long it was on, 6 weeks or whatever. It did decently in reviews. Like it wasn't blasted. I don't feel like people hated it, but it definitely wasn't seen as like peak Marvel either, right?
I think it got like 85%
that's what
Rotten
I'm
Tomatoes.
thinking, like 8 out of 10s ish.
At the time, it was like the highest viewed premiere on Disney Plus ever,
Sure.
even beating
Coming
WandaVision
right off
and
of
all those other-
WandaVision, which is the
Yes.
reason, because WandaVision was such a big hit. And WandaVision caught on a little late. Like it's like some people were there day one, but by the end of it, a shit ton of people were there. So they're like, "Ooh, next." And yeah, it's like looking back now, though, you're right. It's like, would that show be remembered more fondly? Would that show feel more like good MCU if they just put it out as a bingeable show?
I really think it would, and a lot of that is because it feels like it was written as a 6-hour movie versus 6 weeks of television.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And looking at the Penguin, you can tell it's written for television. The way that the flow of the episode, the length of the episode, the arc, where things end. Of course, there's times where things end on a cliffhanger and then it picks up right after. But the way Falcon feels like, it really feels like a 6-hour movie.
Yeah.
And there is some pacing issues, of course, but I mean, there was just things in it I remembered. I was like, oh, like I remember this differently because it was extended, versus just watching it all at once. And after the end of it, I think it might be my favorite MCU Disney Plus show.
Wow.
It was always in contention.
Yeah.
It WandaVision, and I liked Moon Knight, even though there's issues with Moon Knight. But I think overall it is my favorite just because we got John Walker. And they actually do an effort of like giving Sam and Bucky an arc, and John Walker's in it a lot, and I love his
John
character.
Walker was my favorite part for sure. I think just the darkness. I mean, him holding the shield with blood on it. Still, I can still see that frame in my mind.
That fight was so good, like that. It's so good. Like we have to take the shield from you. Back to Creature Commando. If someone had to put a gun to my head and said, "Do you want season 3 of Invincible, Creature Commando season 2?" I would of course pick Invincible season 3.
Sure.
Just because I've been involved in that world longer, and I care about Mark and the relationship with his father way more than I do with Creature Commandos. That being said, we did get a lot of cool things with Creature Commandos.
We did
this season in terms of it being like the touch point for this new universe. One of them being
Batman's first appearance.
Batman's first appearance, right? And so let me say one more thing. We'll get into Batman's first appearance, but like even the introduction of Themyscira, right? So it appears that people have heard of or know of the Amazons,
right?
But they don't really know how to get there. It's just kind of like a big rumor, kind of like Atlantis.
It's exactly. Yeah.
More tangible than Atlantis. It's a little bit more tangible than that. So it's kind of nice getting some of these. Okay, so we're getting some feels of what the world's going to be like. We didn't really get any mention of Superman other than the potential apocalyptic flash forward of dying from the Vision.
All the heroes dead.
Yeah. But we got our Batman first appearance. And of course, here's a couple of things I kind of want to address. One, everyone's like, oh my God, this Batman's going to be huge and big and bulky. It's like, slow your tits. This is animation. Yeah. So it's like Frank Grillo, who while is in incredible shape, especially for his age, he's in incredible shape no matter what age you're in, but he does not look as huge as Rick Flag Sr. does in that show.
Right.
And so like it's just it doesn't matter. It's animation.
It's an exaggeration.
It doesn't mean they're going to cast Alan Richardson as the Batman, right? And also I kind of want to talk a little bit about Andy Muschietti's comments real quick too. Privately, we've been talking that it feels like there's conversation that Robert Pattinson's Batman could be part of the DCU. That could be the new Batman. And of course, we know, like, there's no doubt in my mind those conversations have happened because you want, like James Gunn has said, you want to discuss all the paths. Like, whether it's good or bad, you want to kind of exhaust that line and see, like, is this worth it or not? And okay, whatever. And the report that kind of came out was that Andy Muschietti hasn't talked to James Gunn since before Superman was in production. So over a year. But there's been another report coming out that they've actually had multiple phone calls, like been in touch, right? And so it really, and then Andy Muschietti said, which he's interesting as an interviewer because a lot of time he speaks in Spanish and there's some weird translation stuff sometimes. And it also kind of feels like he doesn't 100% always know. Like he's not super in touch with the fan base and or the overall picture, especially with his Flash comments. But he says that Robert Pattinson is not.
Listen, those Flash comments, that's just asking a guy to talk bad about his coworkers on camera. Like he's not gonna do like, why do you think it didn't connect? He's like, well, the CGI artist didn't do a very good job, or my bosses didn't give me enough money to have time to do the CGI. That's just, to me, it's like anytime you ask a director about the movie, they're not really even doing it for themselves as much as like everyone else that worked on it. You know what I mean? It's just like you don't get
I 100%
again
agree with you.
Badmouth shit like that. So it's just like,
don't say
it's just PR.
But you don't say no one cares about the Flash as a character.
You know, you're right. Yeah.
You don't say that.
That was probably not the best way to.
You 100% say, he said we had our principal actor going through a mental health crisis during it, which I think the PR was not great for that. I don't think it affected the box office in a massive way. No. I think the movie was playing on nostalgia in one sense that people really wanted to see Michael Keaton, and a lot in other sense where people did not care about the Zack Snyder universe.
Yes.
And do not care about General Zod showing up. And then didn't
love Ezra Miller as Barry Allen. Not the fan favorite casting.
No, never in a million years would I cast that man as the Flash. But that, and also the CGI was pretty horrendous overall. So anyway, he come out and said that Pattinson is not the DCU Batman. It'll be an all new Batman, which which is what we were told in the beginning.
Yeah.
And so it was cool getting little touch points like that in this larger universe. Of course, none of it really matters until Superman comes out July 12th this year. And also, as of this week, Supergirl has been started filming too.
I saw that. Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I'm obviously like Superman. Can't wait. I'm like, I can't wait till we get trailer number 2. I'm guessing we're still probably a month or 2 away from that.
Probably a Super Bowl spot, I assume.
Oh, there you go. So probably next month. Yeah. So yeah. But like, I do think, Batman is my favorite DC character. So like, I love Superman. I have growing, my love for Superman is growing. But I still just love Batman. So I think that movie is still just kind of like, I can't fucking wait till we learn who's casted in that and all this kind of stuff. I just, that's the part I'm just like drooling for, is when that starts going into pre-pro and casting and, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, it was cool seeing him in the episode. It was cool, just from an extent that it just makes you feel like the show's in the actual world. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't be doing that in Gotham without Batman showing up. So he has to. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't worried about the art design. I mean, like they intentionally kept it very vague and shadowy so they can not have to, they won't feel beholden to anything about that design in the future. So yeah, anyway, I mean, like to me, Creature Commandos, great start to the DCU, the James CU. And I agree. I'm ready. It makes me want to dive back into the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, also just because they're like canon to this now. And so like, that's kind of like background information to everything else that's going to come, in the future and stuff. I loved having, I'm apologize his name, the actor, the big guy in Peacemaker that was also animated in this. Yes. Wait, what? Who'd you say?
King Shark.
No. The dude with glasses, the tech dude that Amanda Waller's like assistant.
Yeah.
Yes, King Shark at the end. That was great. That was wonderful. But that dude just being there and like being behind the scenes with Amanda Waller, kind of like he was in the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, just makes everything feel nice and continuous. Like you didn't have to have that character come back and that actor playing, but they did. And so it makes me, even because he's in the Suicide Squad and has quite a big role in Peacemaker. And so anyway, yeah, I just think that I'm excited. I mean, other than maybe a bad choice for a photo, he really hasn't made a misstep yet in his, in his new universe. I mean, he will. It won't be perfect. There will be a Thor: The Dark World. There will be, Iron Man 2s. There will be things that are not up to expectations.
I like Iron Man 2.
Yeah, it's not
I
bad.
know.
It's just compared.
I know. I know.
You know what I'm saying? Like there will be things that are relative to other success duds, but I hope it gets off to a strong start, and yeah, I'm excited.
Well, the last thing I want to say here, and this is like an interesting observation, where like the MCU started out, and of course they had announced movies, and this first phase culminated in Avengers, right? We have a lot of things announced, like Lanterns, that's in pre-pro right now, picks up on production relatively soon.
Can't wait.
We have other things, like a lot of things in the writing phase, right? But we know Lanterns has been greenlit, like it's actually coming to us probably 2026. Supergirl is shooting now. Clayface has been greenlit. Kind of come out of nowhere. Creature Commandos season 1, season 2 has been greenlit. Superman's coming out, and James Gunn's made a few comments and saying that like he didn't anticipate Supergirl being out of the gate first, but it just had a really good script, right? And he keeps saying, which I think is a great mantra, like we're not going to go,
music,
we're not going to go, with our scripts not 100% fantastic.
And if we do have a fantastic script that we weren't expecting, we're just going to do it. You know what I mean? Like they'd not planned a Clayface movie. That was not on the cards, from what I understood. Just like
Mike Flanagan come to them with an idea.
He just said, I wrote this, and I mean, like Mike Flanagan barely does anything wrong in the horror space. So like that's just
Well, he pitched it, and then apparently James was like, "Oh, this is great! Like, yeah, let's can I start developing this?" And then apparently he came back like 2-3 months later with a full script. He was like, "Holy crap, this is amazing!" Like he didn't expect it to be that fast, kind of thing.
Oh wow, yeah.
But my question, and now it's greenlit, and they're looking for a director. My question though is this: we're getting Creature Commandos, Superman, Supergirl. We don't know when Brave and the Bold's happening. We know the Batman Part 2 is 2027.
Yeah.
My fear is that because they're taking this interesting scripts first approach, which, on its surface is the right decision. My fear is that James Gunn is stretching himself a little too thin with Superman. He might direct Superman 2 or some other big movie, or at least write a feature for another movie. My fear is that, will any of this make sense? Like, is it going to take 7-8 years for a Justice League movie? But by that time, our actors going to be 7. You know what I'm saying? Like it took only like 4 or 5 years, 4 years for Avengers. I mean, like
I think for me, it comes down to if you're telling good stories, I don't care. If it takes us 10 years to get to Justice League, but you do it fucking right, then take 10 years to get. If that's the right way to do it, if that's how you tell the best stories with the best actors and creators and all of that, I don't care. I mean, I don't need to have. I mean, like. I don't need it on a schedule. I just want them to do good shit. And I do think, to me, it's like that to me is like the foundational kind of philosophical, at a philosophy level, like I think what every creative wants to hear in a way of James Gunn's, like you always want you want to have the idea perfect and formulated before you start acting on it. That's what every creative, that's what everyone in film wants. And so like it will be an interesting, I guess, let's see how it works. Like, I don't know if we've had someone at this high level of like a studio with that kind of philosophy affecting tens, like 10 projects at a time, or however many are in development right now. So there is a little bit of just like, I hope it works just so that like more people will catch on to this is the way you tell good stories. But to me, it's just like just like a viewer level. It's just like, if you're giving me good Superman movies and you're giving me good Batman movies and good Green Lantern and good this, and everything you're putting out is just at a really high level, I don't care. Like if we're not getting Justice League 1 till 2035 but it's just hitting, it's like, cool. I've got what, 10 other Justice League movies I can watch if I just really need to see the 5 of them in the same frame. You know what I mean? Like it's like, what, I just want good stories with these cool characters. I don't care how you format it or like plan it out, as long as it's good. If it's good shit, yes, I want it. I don't know.
I do think that Marvel gets probably a harder rap lately than it should. We have to keep in account COVID, writer strike, director strike, actor strike.
Well, and Marvel, Well, oh, sorry. Well, go ahead.
Well,
Sorry.
I was gonna say like there was a period there, especially when Feige had like complete control before Zaslav got in and put all his stuff for Disney Plus, all these things in.
Yeah.
There was like a moment where we were getting banger after banger, and they had one of their superpowers is, and they get a bad rap for it, is the reshoots and the retinkering. But people gotta remember, Iron Man 1 was being made with no villain being set. Like he wasn't figured out he was a villain until midway through production. And so which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
But they built the most successful film universe of all time, film franchise of all time on that mythology, right?
Sure.
And so my fear is that James Gunn won't be able to, the output won't be as fast as it needs to be to capture the audience attention, and be as fast as it needs to be to combatant Warner Brothers shareholders and then whoever buys them in the next 5-10 years or sooner.
That part I mean, like, yes, that the top down pressure to do something quicker, I could see that being a factor. I hope it's not too big of a factor. I don't think they're going to just want to take their time and drag their feet on anything. But to me, again, if Superman comes out and it's a banger, it makes $1 billion, or even a quarter or 3/4 of a bill or half.
If it makes 750, where it's a huge success.
Yeah. So like, if it can do that, that buys him more time. You know what I mean? So like, to me, it's like if you're I guess that's why I kind of think it can work, is that if you're putting out bangers after bangers, and you're right, Marvel did put out a bunch of good movies in a really amount of time that were mostly good, but there still was Thor: The Dark World in there. You know what I mean? There still were not great ones. There were still ones that people don't remember, like The Incredible Hulk, or like, these ones that just kind of slipped under the radar. Well, it just is not as,
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
I mean, what, I don't know if there was another sequel in there. I'm not thinking of it. Well, there was Avengers Age of Ultron, which we have an appreciation for, but is not at the level of the other ones. You know what I mean? So like,
I mean, it made $1.3 billion.
Financially, yes. But even just from a script level and a character level, there's just some weird stuff in that movie. It's not as tight. It's not as like as Avengers 1, or obviously the Infinity War game. But all that to say is like, you're right. Marvel did find a thing that works, and what they proved is there's a market for 20 films in the same universe. People don't get bored if you do it right. But then I think, it's that one thing. It's like, it's almost like, it's what they talk about. I've heard it talked about in like game development. It's like, so much of like what ends up being the game was just so much trial and error. And so like, for instance, like developers like, Mass Effect, they have the like BioWare, they come out with Mass Effect and it like takes the world by storm, right? But like in the process there's so many things that like went wrong before they got it right. But then you get to, and you're like, oh, I guess it worked. I guess what we did is great. I guess we should just do that again, not recognizing all of the pitfalls that you had to navigate to get back there. And so when they try to do it again, Mass Effect's a bad example because Mass Effect 2 is great. But like, there's lots of examples of companies that come out with banger games, and then the next one they trip over themselves doing everything because it's almost like this, like it's survivorship bias. Well, whatever we did must have worked when there was other factors. There was luck. There was like, all those things that, yes, you got lucky, or yes, this ended up working out for you, but it's not because what you did worked. It's because you got lucky or whatever, So I think there is this level. And to me, that even explains maybe some of the drop off after Infinity War Endgame, where it's like, look, we did it. Everything worked. Let's just do it again, without recognizing where they could improve the process, or recognizing where it's like, we used to do these things away, but we should try to do it this way to make it better. So it's like, to me, James Gunn is starting at this weird place where he's starting a giant superhero movie universe when it's already been proven those work, right? We already have the Marvel example. This isn't Marvel doing things for the first time, and we're like, whoa, this works. It's like, okay, Marvel did it, and they made so much fucking money. DC has the IPs to do it too. They have what they need to produce that level, I think, of success. And so it's a thing of like, I do like that James Gunn is trying to take a smarter approach to it. And I do hope that, again, all signs have been good that he just kind of has a blank check creatively and like carte blanche to make whatever decisions he wants. But I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, the next few years, I mean, DC and how it does both critically and especially financially will be very interesting. Have you seen any numbers on like streaming numbers for Creature Commandos? Like, have you seen anything?
I mean, the reviews are really, really strong.
Yeah.
I think the actual views, I saw some
Nielsen
stuff
may not
and
have released stuff. Yeah, they kind of do stuff late with streaming too.
yeah, I saw some things, but nothing I can like solidly point to or talk about today.
Sure.
But I mean, they did well enough for them that they announced the season 2 on the hinge of season 1.
Right.
But part of that too, again, if Superman, this is the last thing I'll say, if Superman makes, even it just recoups its budget, but is a strong critical score, it's a success. Superman has to combatant the Zack Snyder universe, the Flash. It has to fight the baggage. And so that's its main objective, is to come out the other end a strong movie in the eyes of people who saw it and hope that others see it too for the next one. So that's its objective. So if it doesn't need to make $1 billion, if it's like if they don't make a $700 million, like this is a failure, then the universe is already doomed. Like it will stop before it starts. It really will. And I said all that stuff earlier just to kind of, this is the stuff I'm really keep my eye out on for, because I want the universe to succeed. I want people to watch it and to enjoy it and just get the good stories that you're talking about. But my fear, like Warner Brothers has always done, is that they're
Reactionary as fuck.
they're reactionary. And so I'm afraid they're going to go back on old habits or be absorbed by someone or bought by someone who doesn't agree with what's being going on.
Yeah.
That's my fear. So I think overall, I think Creature Commandos, I think we both think it's a win. It's a win for Gunn. Again, he keeps having wins, at least critically. And I think it only adds more promise to Superman. And like you said, I'm excited for the next trailer. And we're less than 6 months out. Exciting. So how can our listeners write into us, Daniel?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/241mail. Let us know what you thought of Creature Commandos. We'd love to hear what your favorite episode was. Who's your favorite character? What are you hoping for season 2? Let us know. bit.ly/241mail.
And if you can't hit us up in our Bitly, you can always find us in the comment section below, youtube.com/@241studios. Again, it's the best place to consume all the content. Daniel, it's fun talking Creature Commandos. Indeed. I'm looking forward to 2025 and all the goodies. We have a lot of good stuff this year. We have Daredevil Born Again.
Ooh, that trailer was hot.
Very hot. Captain America 4, Thunderbolts, Superman, Fantastic Four.
Severance, Friday.
Severance season 2 this Friday. Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of good TV actually about to come out. If there's something else too, there's like so many things that Invincible's in March, right? Is that right?
Yep. So is Daredevil. Yep.
Yeah. New White Lotus season. I don't know if you've watched White Lotus.
I watch Yellow Jackets, so that comes out relatively soon.
That's right too. Yeah, I do watch that. Yeah. We'll see how season 3 is. Season 2 was something.
It was wild. Yeah, I watched that because of you. You
season 1 is like good. I think it's like Lost horror, and then season 2 is just like, whoa, we got real convoluted with the plots, didn't we? We just anyway.
Lots of swings. Yeah. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield,
and we have spoken.